this is Jo from Maths Tutor Me. Today we are doing ratio and rates, and we're going to look at the distance time graphs. Now this is an example of a distance time graph here. The steeper the line on the graph, the greater or the bigger the speed. So the steeper it is, the faster it is. If the line is horizontal, it means that the person or the object has stopped. Okay, so there are a few things to help you with this section. Okay, using this graph, it says Lana's day out. Across the bottom we have times, so it starts at 7 a.m. and she does some traveling, and by 7 p.m. she's back again and she's stopped. This axis, the vertical axis, tells us the distance, how far from home she is. Okay, so at 7 a.m. she's traveling away from home. Okay, and then she's coming back. We're going to talk about all the bits along the way in these questions over here. So in question 1, looking at our graph here, it says, how far from home was Lana at 9 a.m.? So at 9 a.m. we look here. If we go up to our line and across, it is at the number 8. So that means 8 kilometers. She was 8 kilometers from home. Question 2, how long was Lana stopped for throughout the day? Well, remember that the horizontal line means stopped. So she stopped between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So that's 2 hours. And then over here, there's another stop. She stopped here. This would be 4 p.m. So from 4 to 5 p.m. she stopped for another 1 hour. So she stopped for a total of 3 hours throughout the day. When was Lana traveling the fastest? So that is the steepest section of the graph. Now it can be steepest going up this way, or it can be the steepest coming back. And I think if you look at this, you will see that that line is actually steeper than these two. So she was traveling the fastest between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. Between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. When was she the furthest from home? Now each of these lines, she's getting further and further away because her distances are going up as she's coming across this way. This point here where she has her rest is the furthest she gets from home. She was the furthest from home, which was 16 kilometers away from home, between 4 and 5 p.m. and then she started coming home. So she was furthest from home between 4 and 5 p.m. and then she came home. Calculate her speed in the first 2 hours. Okay, so in the first 2 hours, she started from home and she traveled a total of 8 kilometers. So remember our formula, speed is equal to distance over time. The distance she traveled was 8 kilometers, and that was for the first 2 hours. So 8 divided by 2 is 4 kilometers per hour. Alright, that's it. Okay, that's all you need to know about distance time graphs. So let's have a look. We have another one here on the next page. Okay, this might be a little bit trickier because we have 2 lines on the same axes here. That's just so that we can compare them. Okay, we've got 2 people here. We've got a name on this one. It says Ben. This one says Danny. It says hours after start and distance from the start, okay, in kilometers. So it says over here in the questions, Danny and Ben are competing in a 100-kilometer running race. How far did Ben travel in the first 3 hours? What was his speed? Okay, so Ben, 1, 2, 3. In his first 3 hours, that goes to there. We want to know his speed. Speed is equal to distance over time. In 3 hours, his distance from the start was 60 kilometres. The time that took him, well, it said 3 hours, it gave that one to us, 3 hours. 60 divided by 3 is equal to 20 kilometres per hour. Let's look at question 2. How far did Danny travel in the first 3 hours? Okay, so now we're looking at the Danny graph. We want to know, it just says how far. Okay, just how far, and then what was his speed? So Danny travelled 40 kilometres, and his speed, which is distance over time, his speed is 40 kilometres in 3 hours. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. That's 30 kilometres. In 3 hours, he travelled 30 kilometres. 30 kilometres in 3 hours, which is 30 divided by 3 is 10 kilometres per hour. So he is not travelling as fast as Ben in the first 3 hours. What might have happened to Ben 3 hours into the race? Now, we're having a race here. Don't normally stop in the middle of a race, and you can see there's a flat line here where Ben has stopped. So this is a bit of a speculation, but if he's running and he was running very, very fast and all of a sudden he had to stop, so you might speculate maybe he overdid it. Maybe he got so exhausted that he had to have a break. Or perhaps he fell over and hurt himself. Okay, so one of those two options would be an acceptable answer. Okay, so I might write down Ben may have fallen over and been injured. Okay, question 4, who won the race? Okay, so the race is the first person to run the 100 kilometres. So, the 100 kilometres is in here. Who is the first person to finish it in terms of time? This line here, who is this? It's Danny. Danny was the first one. Okay, so Danny started off slowly, but he actually finished the 100 kilometres first. Ben started very, very fast. Perhaps he was injured or something happened here, and he had to complete the second part, the other half of the race, much, much more slowly. So, question 5, how many hours into the race did Danny overtake Ben? So this point here where the two lines cross over is where Danny took over Ben. So those lines are crossing over at approximately the 8-hour mark. So 8 hours into the race, Danny took over, which was only really the last hour of the race for Danny because he won the race an hour after that after 9 hours. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of the question, and that's the end of our topic on ratio and rates. So, I'll see you next time for a new topic. Bye for now.